Grab some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Hey, welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. It's going to be a great day here today, and we have a really good show lined up for us. Mike, welcome. Welcome to the show, my colleague and friend and business partner.
Yep.
We're doing this show, and we've done a ton of shows and a ton of content that we've put out over the last number of months. But I'm excited about this one. You were telling me about this one earlier today, and you had an idea just to really have some famous quotes by a bunch of extremely well-known people.
Hey, absolutely. And so what we see is in social media, especially today, we see all these memes where people will take a great image and they put some famous quote on top of it, and it gets lots of likes and shares. But really, each of those quotes has a meaning behind it, and it might mean something different to each of us. So
Right.
I thought we would just kind of popcorn back and forth and share some of the quotes we've seen recently, and talk about what they mean to us.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because what happens is you hear a famous quote like you were saying, and you do think about how it resonates with you, right? Mm-hmm. And you automatically assume that it resonates the same with everyone else that's reading it or is being told to, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, a lot of times it's always the perception of the lens you're looking through, and
that's right.
Which is oftentimes a reflection on where you're at in that particular moment.
Yeah, whatever's going on in your life.
That's right.
At the moment,
and how it impacts that.
So we're going to take a deeper dive, a real deep dive into some of these famous quotes and some, I would say famous people, but not everybody is famous, right? So you might know everybody. The listeners and viewers might know everybody who we're going to talk about. They might not. And so we're just going to take a little bit of a deep dive into some quotes that we found and heard and some that we like to say from time to time. And so I'll just get started.
Okay.
Does that work?
Let's go.
Okay. So a quote that I've heard many times actually, which I really, really like, is you can't hire someone else to do your push-ups for you, right? Jim Rohn said that, right?
Right.
And so I love that quote. You can't hire someone else to do your push-ups for you. Mike, how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I wish I could. There's a lot of things that I wish I could hire someone else to do. And there are things you can hire other people to do, but push-ups is certainly not one of them. And what it's saying is, to me, it implies not just push-ups or physical activity, but it's things like learning. You can't delegate off your learning. You can't delegate off all of your hard work. There's just certain things that you have to go do yourself.
Right.
You have to go through the pain. You have to go through the experience. You have to do the work.
And when you do,
you grow.
You grow.
Yeah, you grow. But it's painful oftentimes.
Right.
And so those push-ups, if you're really, really aiming to get in great shape and push-ups is part of that regimen, you've got to be disciplined and go do it.
And some of the times when, in some cases, when you are able to get someone else to do your push-ups for you, right? Then I guess sometimes the task actually gets done, the work gets done.
Right.
But when it's time to do those same push-ups again, you didn't know how to actually repeat it.
That's right. You're out of shape.
You're out of shape. You don't know how to accomplish it because someone else did it.
Right. And so there's some things, again, there's lots of things that you can delegate off and it makes sense to do so. But oftentimes there are things in life that just, you need to be the one to do it.
Right. Okay.
So let's go to the next one,
All
Matt.
Right.
So this is a quote by J.J. Watt. I know you're familiar with who he is, Matt.
Yep.
And probably for many of our listeners also are. And so if you only do the bare minimum, don't expect anything but bare minimum results.
Yeah, the first thing that goes to my mind is, I don't even know what movie is it when he's talking about the minimum flare.
The Office. The Office.
Is that what it is? The Office?
Yeah.
Oh, you just have the minimum flare?
Or Office Space. Maybe that's what it's called.
Yeah, is that what it is? Oh, you just want to wear the minimum flare? Yeah,
right, minimum pieces of flare. Wasn't that Jennifer Aniston?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like TGI Fridays,
that's
maybe?
the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about that quote.
The bare minimum.
J.J. Watt, that's a good quote from J.J. Watt, obviously a perennial powerhouse defensive end.
Oh,
within the NFL for the Houston Texans. I'm a huge Texans fan, so I definitely like J.J.
I need some
Watt.
of their water because they have it's three brothers that are all in the NFL.
That's right. You have
amazing.
J.J. Watt. I know one brother is T.J. Watt.
Right.
And I don't know the other one. I know J.J.
His last name's Watt.
Oh yeah, I know J.J.
NFL.
is obviously because I'm a huge football fan, and so I know that he played for Wisconsin, and I think he was drafted first round back in 2011.
I think all three of them played for Wisconsin.
Okay, did all of them go to
I think
Wisconsin?
so.
All right, and so I'm a huge Texans fan because I'm a huge fan of Deshaun Watson because I'm
how
a
can you
big
not be?
Clemson fan. So.
Yep.
Well,
So what does this quote mean?
if you only do the bare minimum, don't expect anything but the bare minimum results. Man, that's not just true in business, but it's true in life, right? And so, business owners, especially being that this is a business building show, business owners especially probably have a ton of team members and a ton of employees and a ton of staff that live by only doing the minimum, right?
just skating by.
Here's my job. Description, and I'm just going to do exactly what it says. And he probably has a lot of team members and a lot of employees that's like, oh, that's not in my job description, right? And so what ends up happening is a good friend of mine. I'll give you another analogy. A good friend of mine used to say, someone would ask him how many people you have working for you, and his answer was about half of them. Right, and so it's funny, but it's true, right? And so
probably an older guy too.
That's this case right here. Your key is let's just say you have team members on a scale of 1 to 5, and what I try to believe in is if you have 2s, try to bring those to 3s. If you have 3s, try to bring those to 4s, right? Mm-hmm. And the people in the middle, if you can get the folks in the middle to lead from the middle, they'll be the ones responsible for bringing all of the 1s and 2s up to 3s and 4s, and the people in the middle will also be ones responsible for bringing the leaders, the people at the top. They'll take them all the way to where they just truly excel. So that's a good one, man. I like that one.
Yeah, I mean, I just to add to that, it's when you do the minimum, you're going to get mediocre results.
No doubt.
I mean, that's just, you get out what you put in.
Right. The definition of insanity for a business owner is
do the same thing and expect a different result.
Right. All right. Here's another one. What we spend our time on is the most important decision we make. Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah. So that's
what we spend our time on is the most important decision we make.
Mm-hmm. So we're limited in time, right? It's our most valuable resource, time. We can make more money. We can bring on more people, but we can't make more time. 24 hours on the clock, 7 days a week. And unless you got a DeLorean and crazy scientist and Michael J. Fox, you're not going
back
to the future or to the past. And so we've got to make the most of the time that we have. And there's, especially in the business world, there's always more to do than there's time to do it.
Yep.
And so oftentimes we're all guilty of it. There are things that pretty much everybody does that if they were to really reflect and dissect their daily calendar, they're wasting time.
Yeah, no doubt.
There are things in most of our days that we could eliminate without any negative impact whatsoever, and it would free us to maybe think more clearly, execute more effectively, and just be play at a higher level.
Time management is probably one of the most important key factors of success in business. And Ray Kurzweil, obviously being a famous inventor for things like print-to-speech reading machines and text-to-speech synthesizer for the blind, things like that, he definitely understood what time was all about.
Yep.
Hey, you're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We're here talking about famous quotes. We're just kind of bouncing back and forth between Mike and myself and asking each other, or really not asking, but just telling each other those famous quotes and how it resonates with each other. Yeah. So, Mike, we'll just jump back in. What do you have next?
All right, so here's one by Grace Hopper. The most dangerous phrase in the language is, "We've always done it that way."
We've always done it that way. I probably experienced that at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah. Or
Not
a day.
only have I experienced it and continue to experience it every single week, I have probably said it myself and believe in it myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. So we've always done it that way. You can use that in all types of ways, right? You can use it as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it to delay the inevitable. You can use it to just change the subject with
Right.
someone, right? Well, hey, we've always done it that way, right? And so, I mean, it is one of those mindsets that can really, really get a business in trouble.
What do you think drives that? It's a resistance to something. What is that?
Well, it could be a number of things, but one thing is just out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, like if you look at some of the businesses, I'll give you some. Blockbuster,
Yeah.
right? They could have very easily jumped into the online streaming business first, like
Right.
Netflix and Hulu and all those.
That's
they
right.
could have easily, right? They had the market when it comes to watching movies.
That's right.
Right.
You had the audience.
They had everything set up. It was all perfect, right? But they probably came and said, streaming, well, this is the way we've always done it. We've always done it like this.
So they resisted change.
Fear.
Yeah.
They probably, because they were fearing having to go hire somebody or find someone who had that knowledge. They didn't want to change it themselves. I mean, it was and who Grace Hopper, right? Grace Hopper. And so, if I remember correctly, Grace Hopper was, I think she was in the Navy. Because I was a computer science major in college, and she was one of the lead people on the COBOL programming language back in World War II
Isn't that
as
something?
a computer programmer,
Crazy.
and a female in World War II being the lead person on. And so, yeah, I mean,
That's
think about
changing
how
in
many
itself.
times she's experienced, well, this is how we do it.
Uh-huh. Yep.
We've always done it this way. That's a good one. All right. How about this one, Mike? We are what we repeatedly do. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. I love that. That's by Aristotle.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably one of the most famous quotes I've ever heard.
Right.
So, and it's true. It's, and I can't agree more with that statement. I mean, it really is. I mean, if we do things in a sloppy way, if we are mediocre, we're going to be mediocre.
Yeah.
And so we build habits, and those habits then build us.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
But you want a perfect practice to make
Right.
to be a champion, right? And so, if we continuously get up late, if we continuously make excuses, if we continuously put off, to tomorrow what we could do today, that eventually that habit creates who we become.
Right.
And
I think of golf. I'm a golfer. I love playing golf, and I think about golf, and because you can just there's millions of people who just go play golf, right? They've never had a lesson. They figured it out. They might have had some lessons early, and they just go play golf,
Right.
and they practice the same habit over and over and over. And what happens is they become very, very good at playing bad golf.
yeah,
They're very good at playing bad golf.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
Because that's
if you
their
execute
habit.
a bad habit,
Right.
it's just going to cement that bad habit.
That's who you are.
and that's who you
But
become.
the people who spend a lot of time, money, and effort practicing,
yeah,
they start practicing the excellence in which they do, and then that's where the Tiger Woods
Yeah.
starts to appear.
yeah, they pay very close attention to every single detail.
Right.
Foot placement, club,
Yeah.
whatever it is, wind. They're looking at every factor
Right.
to make sure that they understand how to execute with excellence day in
And day out.
And what you do repeatedly, you eventually.
And the reason why we
become.
talk about that type of thing on a business building show, obviously, is because if you don't spend time, money, and effort creating the culture that you want, then what you do is you become very good at having a bad culture.
That's right.
If you don't spend a lot of time, money, and effort executing the way you want to execute, whether you sell products or services, then you become very good at bad execution,
Yeah.
and
How you
so
answer
on
the
and so
phone.
forth.
I mean, everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So spend the time, do it correctly, and become an expert at excellence in your business. That's a good one.
Let's go on to the next one.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. So Robert Louis Stevenson says, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant."
Oh, wow. I love that. Because as a business owner, and I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of a lot of things, right? It's easy for me to admit that at this point in my life. At one point in my life, I wouldn't want to admit my failures as
Right.
easy as I do today. I actually like leading with those now. And so, but I'm going to tell you that I love that because whereas I just wanted to fix it, I just wanted just to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that it was much easier for me just to do it myself than have to teach someone else how to do it, especially if I've
Right.
seen them already fail at it. But it's so much better to teach. It's almost better to plant the seeds and allow that harvest to take
Root.
root.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, today, tomorrow, and it could be where you don't even get to witness it.
It's true.
And so that's good. Now, I don't know Robert Louis Stevenson. I don't know him. Do you know anything about him? I don't.
Yeah,
know
we've
anything
never
of his-
met.
Yeah, I don't know anything of his.
But it's about, what's true is true, right?
Yeah.
And so, another place I see this, because I know that we probably have a lot of business owners that listen in, but we also probably have sales professionals that travel and they're in their car or podcasting at their desk. And so I would also say this applies in many ways. So often I see people go to like networking events. Maybe they go to a chamber event or a business networking event like BNI or somewhere where they're around others. Maybe it's a conference, and they judge the success of that day, that event, based on how many deals they think they're going
Immediate satisfaction
to get, right? They're looking for that immediate microwave
gratification,
action,
right?
right? Yeah, immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's really how many seeds do they plant? Because the harvest will eventually come.
Right.
Not all those seeds will grow.
Okay,
We know that.
so you're coming
You
out
gotta
from a
plant
sales
enough.
perspective.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So,
I love that.
And the same thing with marketing. Oftentimes when we're meeting with clients, they want to know, they're looking for that true direct response advertising mechanism, and they want to really trade dollars for more dollars, right?
Yeah.
I want to buy an ad today, and I want to get a customer today or tomorrow.
Right.
And so, but we know that most often the most powerful part of advertising, really, you're building momentum. You're planting lots of seeds, and you got to water those seeds,
Yeah.
and then you have to have faith that harvest is coming in the future, and it will if you continue to plant and water.
I love that. While you were talking there, I looked it up. Robert Louis Stevenson, he was a Scottish novelist that died at a very young age of 44. He was back in the 1890s. So man,
Wow.
we're talking about some old wisdom here. He actually wrote.
So I guess he wasn't on Instagram. Was he,
He was not on. We didn't learn this on Facebook. Hey, listen, he wrote The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Wow.
He was the author of that.
Isn't that something?
Isn't that something? So this is some old wisdom that we're breaking out with that particular quote.
Yep.
All right. Here's one by someone that you're very, very familiar with. Okay. Mr. Les Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
You'll be hungry.
I mean, one of the best motivational speakers of all time. Here's what he said. He said, if you run around with 9 losers, pretty soon you're going to be the 10th loser.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, you hang out with dogs, you get fleas. I mean, there's so many other quotes that intend the same thing that he is implying here, but you have to pick who you're going to invest time with. And if you choose to hang out with bottom feeders, people who lack motivation, who are excuse makers, what have you, then sooner or later you're going to begin to pick up their habits. And the same is true if you go hang out with people who maybe are striving for the same things that you are. Maybe they're equally ambitious. Maybe they're a little more ambitious than you are. I mean, ideally, you're going to hang out with people who are playing at a little bit higher level than you are. So that way you can learn something from them. They can, maybe some of their ambition, some of their desire to do things with excellence will rub off on you and help you improve.
Yeah. So if you're the smartest person in a room,
Get in another room.
get in another room.
Yeah.
That's A. B is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably just wrong.
Yeah.
right?
I've never really had that problem.
Right. You're probably just
So-
wrong. So, but no, if you think you're the smartest person in the room and you've proven that multiple times, then yeah, you need to get another room.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So that's good.
Do we have time for one more here?
Yeah, we got time for one more. Let's jump in real quick.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
All right. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And that's by Harvey McKay.
Okay. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Yeah, ignorance is you think is free, but it actually costs you a lot more than being educated, because you spend a little bit of time and you can educate yourself and you can do it correctly, or you can spend the rest of your life trying to undo what you've done wrong with ignorance. And ignorance is certainly, we've learned over the years, not an excuse.
No, it's not. And I tell you, Matt, education comes in many formats. And so whether that's a formal school or that's ongoing learning in your industry,
Right.
or personal development.
Right.
I mean, the key is to always be learning.
That's right.
Always be learning and growing. And ignorance is expensive.
That's what we're trying to do here with the brainstorm. We're trying to educate ourselves and all of our viewers and listeners. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Today we're talking about famous quotes and how they resonate with everyone, and how they apply to business is actually kind of our twist on the famous quotes and the memes you might see, because they all resonate with someone in some way. They might just kind of give you motivation. They might give you direction. They might give you some wisdom. We're just trying to kind of twist them a little bit. Not the quotes. We're saying the quotes exactly like they are, but we're just kind of...
We'll put our spin on it.
Yeah, we're putting our spin on them and figuring out how to apply those to a business perspective. So, Mike, here is a quote that I really like, and we actually have lived by this for a number of years. Here it goes. A year from now, you may wish you had started today.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, that happens all the time, right?
That happens all the time.
And it really, again, applies to a lot more than just business.
I wish I would have.
Yeah, if I would have started then, I could be here.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot when people draw closer and closer to retirement.
Yeah.
I wish I would have started to invest sooner.
Right. I wish I would have hired people sooner. I wish I would have opened up an office, XYZ, in another place sooner.
Yeah. So, I think the best thing there is to look at what you need to do to accomplish your goals. Don't wait.
Right.
Start now.
And
start immediately.
And also,
I'll
throw an additional quote to you, right? And says that John Maxwell said this quote: "Jump and learn to fly on your way down." Right? Develop your wings as you're going.
Yeah, that's right. So, no expert was an expert on day one.
Right. And
oftentimes we have to go through the process and make some mistakes and not be afraid to make those mistakes so that we can learn, especially so we can do it with excellence, especially if it's something that's important and critical to helping us get to the goals that we have aimed to achieve. And so in this case, if someone wanted to grow their business and they say, well, I'm going to wait until next year to market my business.
Right.
Before I'm going to get some other thing, my accounting in order, or my operation staff in order, or after I buy that next truck, or whatever that company does, and they're going to wait to market the business, and then next year rolls around, and now they've got the overhead associated with
you're going to wish you would have
expenses.
started marketing it today, and then that revenue would have led you buying the vehicle.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
All right, so here's the next one.
Okay.
A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence.
Wow, read that one more time.
Yep. A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, there's no doubt. You see rivers and they turn and just take motion through mountainsides, right? Through a ton of rock. all throughout the world.
And it changes
And it
how
changes,
the rock looks.
and it changes over time. It literally changes over time.
That's a great point too. You don't see it necessarily change in the moment.
Right. You come back 2, 3, 4 years later. Sometimes another generation comes back and they see a picture and it's completely morphed into something different. And so I went to Jamaica recently and hiked a waterfall. Matter of fact, did it twice this year. I liked it so much the first time I did it. I went back and did it again with my family, and just we see it there. Some rocks have actually just taken shape of something completely different than what it was.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it's not a very powerful force of water coming down, but it's coming down all the time, right? In a consistent fashion, and it makes shape of whatever it is that is going to happen. We see a business do that. We see our clients do that all of the time. And so that's the reason why you have to create a strategic plan. You have to create your goals. You were just talking about that in the last question. Create your goals, and then you stick to it, right? You push your whole team and get your whole team buying into that direction and that vision, right? And let them participate in creating it and stay the course in a consistent fashion. And that consistency is power. That is the power of the organization. Chick-fil-A, right? They didn't say, let's just test out it's our pleasure or my pleasure.
My pleasure.
They said, this is part of who we are, and they put it in place. Now it's one of the most powerful pieces that people use as an example all the time, everywhere.
That's right.
Everybody says, I want to be like Chick-fil-A. I mean, we hear clients and businesses talk about, I want to be like Chick-fil-A, where they have that culture. Well, that's because they didn't just wake up this morning and say, hey, let's try this.
Right, and then change it 2 days later.
Right.
And abandon what they had changed.
Right.
And so it's that consistency that really creates the longest and largest impact.
Right. I love it. I love it. Okay, here's one. Don't assume a door is closed, push on it. Don't assume if it was closed yesterday that it's closed today.
Yep.
Don't assume a door is closed, push on it. And don't assume if it was closed yesterday when you came and pushed on it that it's closed again today.
You see this in sales a lot. And so people will go call on a prospect and they'll say, hey, no, we're happy with our current vendor. We're happy with how things have always been. And so they'd never try and call on that account, that opportunity.
Right.
Again, they assume that door is closed.
They assume the door is
closed for good. But we know that things change.
Right.
Right. Things always change.
Right.
It's inevitable. And so that other vendor may make a mistake. That vendor may not continue to evolve at the same pace. Maybe if your offering is advancing and you have better service or better functionality or it's just a better widget, whatever it is that you're selling that meets their needs at a higher level, sooner or later,
if you believe in
that
it,
opportunity may come back around and be available to you. So don't just dismiss an opportunity because someone said no once.
Right. If you believe in your product or services and you believe that it truly will help the person in business, organization that you're trying to sell it to, right, then no really just should mean not now.
Not yet.
Not yet. You know, and a Marion Wright Edelman actually said that. And so this is a perfect quote, like you said, for sales, for nonprofits. Marion Wright Edelman was a famous activist for children's rights, and she actually founded the Children's Defense Fund in 1973. Awesome. So from a philanthropy perspective, she was out there knocking on a bunch of doors, bunch of doors.
So let's use that as the example. So if someone's going out and they're asking, I mean, nonprofits are generally looking for people to be generous. They're looking for people who see their vision and they connect with their cause, and they're willing to put their financial resources, or their time or talents to work for that nonprofit, for the benefit of that nonprofit and that cause. And so maybe someone doesn't have the funding today to be generous. Maybe they want to, but they can't give what they don't have. But 2 years later, maybe that business is in a different position.
Right.
And maybe they're capable of providing that donation. So that's very good.
Nice. All right. What's the next one?
So failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. I'll say it one more time. Failure is a bruise, not a tattoo, by John Sinclair.
Wow. That's very, very good, man. The first thing that comes to my mind is sometimes we win and sometimes we learn, right? Because if it was a tattoo, that means sometimes we win, sometimes we fail. But in the failure is where you learn. And so when you make a mistake, and so let's say you're manufacturing something, right? And you have to figure out what your process is and your systematic approach is and things of that nature. And there's a lot of learning that goes on there, but you're always making progress, right? Mm-hmm. And so failure is just the bruise, not a tattoo. It's the same thing in sales, right?
It's not permanent.
You're not permanent. You didn't close it today. Well, then just get up, put your pants back on, and go close it tomorrow, right? In a customer service perspective, like you have a disagreement with a client. Hey, I had a meeting this morning, Mike, where me and two of our team members had to go over and meet with the client to talk about their marketing strategy, right? And what it was I didn't completely educate them in our previous meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And so we all learned from that scenario. And so our team members and I came back and said, okay, hey,
how do we avoid this going forward?
Now we're on the exact same page. And so the client went from not being happy to loving us, absolutely loving us.
Good.
Not only was the client not happy and not loving us, now she's actually increased her spend significantly with us.
Fantastic.
After this, the same thing. So it's just simply not a bruise. I mean, it's simply just a bruise, roadblock,
bruises heal,
speed bump.
Tattoos last.
Man, just get over it, right? Yeah. And so, a matter of fact, there was at one point where we were talking about speed bumps, right? Mm-hmm. We did a ton of speed bumps. All right, the next one, which we don't have but just a few seconds. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say who it is, and then we'll come back in the next segment and talk about it, if that's right. So the next question is this. There are only two options regarding commitments. You're either in or out. There's no such thing as life in between when you're talking about commitments. So, Mike, that's by Pat Riley. Pat Riley, very famous for sports fans. Everybody knows that. 5 NBA championships, with 4 of them for the Lakers. We're going to get to that in just a second when we come back.
Sounds great.
You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Hey, welcome back to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Right before break, I was asking my colleague here a great question and restating a quote that Pat Riley, the famous president of the Miami Heat and 5 NBA championships with the LA Lakers for years, said. And so I'm going to ask him that, and he's going to figure out or tell us how that resonates with business owners. So here we go, Mike. There are only 2 options regarding commitments. You're either in or out. There is no such thing as life in between.
Yeah, the first thing I think about when I think of life in between is a squirrel in the middle of the road. And so, oftentimes a squirrel will run out and it just freezes in the middle of the road. And if it doesn't choose which side of the road it wants to go to, it's going to get ran over. It's going to die. And so I think that's the first step toward danger is when you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You either have to commit and be all in, or you need to go find something else to be in on, because being half in is worse than being in or out.
Yeah.
And so in business, when you hire teams, you have team members on your that work with you. You don't want someone who's half-hearted. You don't want someone who's kind of bought in on the calls but not fully. You need fully engaged people who believe in the calls and they're fully committed to helping you chase after it.
Yeah, that's actually why they talk about in a number of extremely well-oiled business machines out there have CEOs and people at the top that talk about hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're not completely bought in, then you're completely bought out. Right?
Yeah, there's no in between. It's lukewarm.
Yeah, it's lukewarm, and that just is not. It's not a formula for success. There's no way that can happen. All right, what's the next one?
All right, Matt. So Jim Rohn says everyone has to get good at one of 2 things: planting in the spring or begging in the fall.
It's very similar, actually, to one of the previous questions where it's talked about a year from now, you're going to wish you started today.
Yeah.
Right? Same type of thing. You have to get your plan together as a business owner. You have to figure out what that plan is. So you have to have a strategic plan. And this is for every organization. This is for nonprofits, for profits. It doesn't matter if you're service, products. It doesn't matter if you're business to business, business to consumer. You have to have your plan. Your plan's going to have a bunch of different elements in it. Who's your target market? What hole or pain point does the consumer of that product or service have, and so on and so forth. You have to have a plan. And then once you have the plan, then you put 100%
take action
effort towards it. Like it's all out. It's full go.
Execute,
and
execute,
if you don't, then, later on down the road, you're going to be going, oh man, I just got to sell something. And that's just not a good spot to be in.
That's the begging in the fall.
So it's just not a good spot to be in. Jim Rome won a 1985 National Speakers Association award, and he was one of the most influential and wealthiest people in the United States when he died.
Isn't that something?
So
he clearly knew how to plant the spring.
He understood that. He understood that and probably lived it. Okay.
That's also a great illustration of how things don't materialize today. Just because you plant today doesn't mean you harvest today.
That's right.
You've got to harvest in the future. So you're always planting for the future crop.
That's right. You always have to be looking forward. That's why you should be working on your business, not in your business, every single day.
That's right.
Now, a lot of people say, I got to work in my business. Who's going to do X, Y, Z? And that's fine. You just can't consume yourself completely with that. You need to get some people around you that can help execute while you provide some vision and some clarity on your goals, right?
That's right.
Okay, how about this one, Mike? The most unprofitable item ever manufactured is an excuse.
Man. So I had a coach in high school, and he had a sign above his office door, which was inside kind of through the locker room, and it said, "Any excuse is no excuse." And for some reason, Matt, that sign is like just branded in my mind. Like it's always just stuck out to me, and really, it's really important to me. And so I think that an excuse is an extremely poor thing to have. I think that it leads to losing, or becoming a loser.
Right.
You can excuse yourself right out of business,
right
out of a relationship, right out of whatever it is that you want to apply it to. And but people are just full of them today.
Yeah.
There's
always a reason
for
why.
everything.
There's
a
always
problem
a reason
and
why.
an excuse.
Right.
Problem and an excuse.
I know for years, what you would always say is, hey, listen, don't ever use the freaking word problem.
Right.
Stop using the problem.
About challenge.
The problem is find me a freaking solution.
That's right.
And so I know that one of our rules here within our brands is if there is a problem, if there is a challenge, then don't come talk to us unless you have 2 to 3 solutions.
That's right. The more, the better.
Right. And so that means you've already had to research it. That means you've already had to think it through, figure out, okay, if we use this solution, how is it really a solution long term? Yep. And so that's what I like about it.
Now, saying that, any excuse is no excuse is important to me. And however, that doesn't mean that I don't still make excuses. I may not use the words excuse. I may say it in different ways, but we all make excuses from time to time. Why didn't we get to the meeting on time? Why weren't we better prepared? Why didn't we execute on that thing that we knew we wanted to execute on? Why didn't we start the diet sooner? Why didn't we do whatever it is that we need to do? And so, but excuses are poison, and we need to all work hard at eliminating them as much as possible.
They're just that. They're simply an excuse. They're not an answer. They're not a solution. Okay.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, man.
All right. All the fancy footwork is great, but if you want to score, you have to shoot.
Hey, shoot or shoot. Shoot or shoot. I love that. Now, I am a people person. I'm extremely extroverted. For those who were listening and viewing online, and so, that's just my philosophy. I was a basketball player, and I did some coaching at the middle school, right? And so the middle school, everybody's scared to shoot. Like literally, everybody's scared to shoot. And the coach, we always have one middle schooler that's like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". So in middle school, what's the game plan? Get the ball to that guy, right?
Yeah.
Let that young man just turn and bank it off the backboard as a layup,
Sure.
and that's the shot. But I'm like, hey, listen, I'm talking to the point guards, and I'm like, shooters shoot. We can't win unless we shoot.
Yeah.
We can't close a deal unless we take our shot.
That's right.
We can't hire someone that we want that may or may not even be looking for a job unless we take our shot. We can't ever, and you know this because this is kind of a quote that I'm sure someone else said it, because I'm sure I've never actually coined any particular quote by myself, but I've always said it, that listen, you will always get what you ask for, but you will never get what you don't ask for.
Yeah.
That's shooting. You have to, shooters take a shot. I mean,
Yeah, you don't always get it, but you'll definitely not get it if you don't.
You want a
if you don't
different.
ask.
You want someone else to help you. Ask them. If you want a teammates working together, ask them. If you need a project completed, ask them. Tell them that's what we need done. Shoot. Listen, you can't just sit back and expect good things to happen. Good things only happen when some intentionality to them.
You know, I had this guy that worked with me many years ago, Matt, and man, he was a fancy dresser. I mean, he dressed to the nines, like
That was
every
you.
single day.
That was
but
you,
I
Mike.
actually worked. This guy made me look like, like I was coming from the slums,
Yeah.
man. He was fancy. And he looked the part. Man, he would never ask for an opportunity. He would not go actually work.
Just look good.
He looked the part.
And
It's
he got
like
into
the guy-
business. He got
it's like
some
the-
business.
It's like the guy at the bottom of
sure.
the slopes that's got, the most expensive snowboard. And
If you can't do it, at least look like you can do
he
it.
looks like a professional, but man,
Right.
he's probably never been on the bunny slopes.
If you can't do it, at least look like you can do it.
So you gotta go get after it. Sooner or later, if you want to be good and beyond the surface, you've got to go put some work in.
That's right. No, I like that. Man, this has been a really, really good show. We're probably going to do another show very similar to this, on some of our future shows. You can go to thebrainstormradio.com. You can subscribe to our podcast on a number of different distribution systems, and you can download some white papers from thebrainstormradio.com. You can also watch some video there. Mike, it's been a good show, man.
It's been fun.
We've been able to go through a number of quotes from some famous people, some people that may not be as famous, but they had a great quote, right?
Right.
That'll be us one
Everybody's
day.
got fame for something.
That'll
right?
be us one day, where someone says, "Well, they weren't that famous, but they had a great quote."
And great haircuts.
And great haircuts, because we're both bald, or at least I just cut mine like that. You're actually
Right,
bald.
yeah.
No, hey, listen, thanks for listening to the Brainstorm Radio. Hit us up on social media. Ask us any questions. We'll be happy to answer them live on air. You're listening to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Until next time, we'll see you soon.